Welcome to the Ferris Love Podcast, single, not stalled, pursuing sanctity in your singleness. This podcast is for Catholic women who find themselves living the single life, whether it's by choice, vocation, or circumstance. Here we believe that this time is not just a waiting period, but a season rich with purpose, growth, and grace. Join your hosts, Monica and Katie Hinder, two sisters navigating the single life from different perspectives as we dive into conversations about faith, friendship, professional growth, and finding joy in the everyday. Let's embrace this extraordinary journey together. Hey, Monica.
Hey, Katie.
So, what's your joy for this week? Do you have anything fun?
That's a good question. Anything fun? No. This has been like a pretty chill week. Like, I don't think there's been any like high highs or like low lows. I would say the weather is kind of stabilizing, which is
We like that.
Which is nice. It's starting to kind of settle into spring. And yeah, I think I bought golf clubs.
Ooh, that's fun.
Yeah. And I went and picked them up. I actually got them custom. I went in and I was like, "Hi, gentlemen. I would like to be fitted for clubs." And they were like, "Really?" "Yeah, I'm not lying. Come on now. Let's go."
Yes,
girls can do it too.
Yeah.
So that's great. So I'm excited for the weather to be nicer for that.
Oh, that's fun. That's fun. I would say one joy for me was I had owed less in taxes than I thought I was going to owe. So that was a really exciting April 15th for me. But I think the real joy was I had read this book called The 12-Hour Walk, a year and a half, 2 years ago or so. And I was like, I want to do this. And basically the premise is to just walk out your door and just walk around for 12 hours and think and contemplate and be without headphones, right? Without someone else, sans distractions and all that kind of stuff, not really connected to your phone. And just walk around and you could rest. So it's not a matter of getting in as many miles as you can. It's really just being detached from all the things for 12 hours. But anyway, so I did that on a trail nearby and I walked for 30 miles. I stopped about midway at my favorite outdoor brewery that serves pizza, and I had pizza and a beer and then just kept walking, and it was a great day overall. So I would say that was my joy from last week.
It's
insane. Wild. I know.
That's insane.
I like the wild stuff.
Anything that's difficult, Katie's like, hold my beer.
True. Actually, it's funny. This is crazy. Don't worry, I'm really not going to do this. But I was watching a documentary earlier this week. I've had a migraine every other day, so I was watching a documentary during a migraine, and it was about the people who do the Badwater 135, which is the hottest ultra marathon in the world.
Katie.
And only 100 people get in every year. You have to apply. It's crazy. It's a crazy thing. Anyway, and I was like, that would be so cool. Don't worry, I'm never going to do it because I actually have realized in the last couple of years that I actually hate running. So any long runs, really not my speed. I really never want to train for another marathon. But for a hot second, I was like, I could do that. I could totally do that.
Yeah. The little how hard could it be gene popped up in it.
Yeah. Well, and then they listed the qualifications, and you have to have done, in order to even qualify, in order to even be considered to qualify for this and to get one of the 100 spots, you have to have completed at least 3 other 100-mile or more ultra marathons.
Yeah, of course.
Which makes sense. But I was like, oh, that means I'd have to train for 4 ultra marathons? No way. Not interested.
That sounds horrible. No, not for me. Your homework, Katie, last week was to do kind of the journaling exercise on identity. She's cringing if people...
Okay, so I actually started doing it while I was on this walk, because this walk, you're not connected to anything, but I realized it would be more effective if I had paper and pen and if I was sitting down. My mind was pretty centered on it, but then I was forgetting the things, and so then I was trying to repeat them in my head, and then I'm like, well, this isn't helping. I'm repeating all these negative things that I'm saying to myself. So I have not done the homework, but I will try and do it this week, and maybe we can touch base on it next time.
Amazing. So let's pivot into today's topic, which is all you, Katie.
So I saw this really interesting, I don't know why, well, I do know why. So I've had all these migraines, so I've started having all these doctors pop up on my Instagram feed, and it started being migraine doctors, and then, I don't know, I fell down a rabbit hole, and it was geriatric doctors, which I don't really know how I got there. But anyway, it was. And there was, I know how, because there was this geriatric doctor talking about the importance of exercise, but the types of exercise you should do to keep your like mental capacity good while you age. Anyway, he had other videos, and one of the videos he talks about is the importance of sibling relationships, especially in old age, and how important it is to develop them when you're young so that when you're older, you have these built in already. And he said, from the patients that he sees, etc., having really strong sibling bonds in your elder years decreases mental illness, depression, loneliness, and even like fatigue in some of his patients. And I was like, oh my gosh, we should talk about that.
Yeah, it's making me think of Katie and I have our sole surviving grandparent is 96,
Yeah,
and she has a sister. She's a sister still alive, and they are like two sisters, that's right. But one of them, they're like kind of thick as thieves still, and that like they go to like mass every morning together. And it's just like their way of kind of supporting each other and checking in. And recently our grandma, well, like was basically diagnosed with cancer, and she was just like, oh, I'm not worried because her sister beat it in her 90s, so like, listen, she'll support me, we'll get through this, like, she's unfazed. And I think it's like, as you're speaking, I'm like, oh, I wonder if this is part of the longevity or the vitality that she lives. She doesn't look like a 96-year-old, and part of it is because she's stayed like very like social and super connected, partially to her siblings.
Well, and it's interesting. I was trying to like deep dive, and I found a bunch of studies, but of course I'm not like super pro at reading studies. But when I was reading the like excerpts from them, right, and whatnot, like a lot of them said what is the dynamic that's really interesting though is it's not like there's something about that like family dynamic, that like sibling, similar age-ish dynamic that's different than even if you have like surviving children or even like really good friends. Like there's something different in, especially in your elder years, about like the mental health aspects and like the loneliness aspects of having a sibling.
Yeah, because I wonder if it's kind of the best of both worlds between having your own children and having a friend, and that you share a biological connection with this person. There's not really a like paternal role there.
Right.
There's not like a responsibility role there typically.
Yeah.
But there's the companionship of friendship. So you get kind of these two things converging. And I think, if you, but like any other relationship, they have to be cultivated. You have to continue to work at them like any other
Right.
relationship in your life. They can't, I mean, they may have like an easier foundation, so to say. Like if your parents did, I think, a decent job of keeping you guys, connected and kind. You could.
And you say too, it's interesting. So I was reading through a bunch of the studies and stuff like that, and then like comments that people were leaving after articles on it. And it was really interesting because a lot of people said, even if they didn't have really great relationships with their siblings, like in their earlier years, in their earlier ages, that a lot of them reconnected with their siblings in like very profound ways in middle age. And that those relationships have continued to grow, and it's true that they feel like less lonely and they feel more accompanied, and because they have those like shared early childhood experiences, which I thought was really interesting. But then a lot of them too, a lot of comments were coming in saying like, oh, that's interesting because like the sibling that I don't talk to, like that broken relationship hurts me way more than a broken relationship with a really good, like my childhood friend that I'd had forever, or even necessarily like a broken relationship sometimes with a child. Like a sibling one is harder to a certain extent. And I was like, oh, that's so fascinating to see.
I wonder why that is. I will say I think that a lot of people I know who have really difficult sibling relationships, they tend to be a little bit more, I don't know, bitter and cynical. Like there's a little bit of a hardness to them. There's something I think that siblings can like offer in sort of that light and levity or companionship. Our mom used to say a lot that we had to be kind to each other because we were going to be like, she used to say that your sibling was the only person who's ever going to fully understand what it was like to grow up with your parents and in your context.
Yeah.
And that there's a deeper understanding that like goes beyond words. Whereas I think anyone else you'd have to try to articulate
Right.
as eloquently as possible
Right.
what it was like to grow up with particular parents in a particular context. And with siblings, you don't have to do that. Now,
Right.
they'll experience your parents a little differently because everyone has kind of different needs, but there's an understanding there that goes beyond words, which is I wonder where some of the bond comes in. And then so too, like something that has the potential for a much greater bond holds the potential for a much greater wound.
Sure. Exactly. And I think, yeah, like that idea of that shared family life that you have in some way, but like the shared memories, the shared context of things that, like, I would imagine in your elder years when you're like sitting in the nursing home or whatever, like you don't have to say, like if it's your sibling, you don't have to say, okay, well, there was this time when I was 8 that this happened. Like, did you ever experience something like that? All you have to be is like, remember like the cottage, and then like all the memories come back for both of you, and you have that kind of shared interaction that can feel much more, yeah, like you would just feel less lonely or more accompanied in that way, for sure.
Yeah. Well, so maybe we can talk a little bit about how one kind of cultivates and continues to. We have this new fun family tradition
I
actually
love
that
this.
started, and I was telling some people about it, and they were like, they've like implemented it into their family, and for context, I think that I'll give credit where credit is due. I think our parents, this was a top priority for them.
Mm-hmm.
It was a
It was.
top priority for them that we all stayed friends. And I remember, like, if we were fighting with one another, we weren't allowed to go play with other friends. And they would always say, I remember this so distinctly, they'd always say, if you can't get along with your siblings, you can't get along with your friends. And I used to think
Yep.
they were so stupid. I was
Same.
like,
I was like, my friends are so much cooler than my
way
siblings.
easier to get along with those people than these people. And now, as I'm older, I'm like, oh, I understand what they were saying. That, like, I'm not going to let you think that you can just run away to easier relationships because this one's hard. You don't get to just be mean to the people you're with and then run away to outside people and be nice. Like, if you can't manage this relationship, you shouldn't be outside trying to manage other ones. And I think that there's something really, I don't know, it forced like resolution and repair with siblings. And
I think, I mean, our lives were really intertwined too. I mean, I think so. We're two of nine, right? But I think like Sundays was always family day, so we never did anything with friends on Sundays ever. But we played a lot of family games. I can remember, you might be too young to remember doing this, but like I can remember playing musical chairs in the living room on Sundays.
okay, now that you say that, it's maybe a vague, distant.
Wild, which I don't remember much of my childhood, so the fact that I remember musical chairs is wild. But like we would do that. We played a ton of board games, we played a ton of card games. We spent a lot of time outside together. But like the whole family, like we always had meals together. I think, yeah, our parents were really, really focused on making sure that we got along really well. And I wonder if part of that was because my mom gets along really, really well with her family, and my dad does not get along very well with his siblings. And I wonder if they kind of saw that juxtaposition a little bit. Although I think they got along better when we were younger, but and we're like, we don't want this for our kids, right? Like we want them to get along and like enjoy each other's company when they're
Yeah, and I think mom definitely saw it as a like this person will be kind of your life raft. Like this person will be someone to shoulder the burden of aging parents, to shoulder the burden of. And I will even say that when you are able to cultivate closer relationships, I thought this actually came up in my own therapy. It's interesting. I was doing EMDR with my therapist, and we were processing this one memory with my dad. And I didn't remember this part of it, but that I had actually gone to a sibling. I'd gone to one of my younger brothers in that moment. And that like a sibling can actually be this like really like this connection, this compassion, this refuge at times when maybe things feel like difficult, or like when parents are being parents and they're not perfect. And so I think that not everyone I think has that experience for maybe a variety of reasons. But I would say that it's not too late. I will say that so our younger brother Joe, Father Joe, he's in Nashville now. I was hosting some shows on Relevant Radio while our dad was out of town, and I brought him on to talk about sibling dynamics. And Joe and I are we're thick as thieves, just like ridiculous in many ways. And the number of people who called in crying because they longed for a sibling relationship like what he and I had. And what it sounded like our family had, and how that, and it's kind of speaking to what you were saying, Katie, that these broken sibling relationships were wounds that they continued to carry with them for a very long time. Very heavy wounds.
Mhm. Yeah, and I do think it's funny. I don't know why with siblings. I mean, maybe this is true with other relationships too, but I feel like people seem to be very fast to write off a sibling relationship and then be like, we're done.
Hmm.
Whereas, and maybe those people are the same ones who are also fast to write off like personal relationships and friendships and other things like that. But yeah, like I feel like I know so many families who are like, well, we don't talk to those siblings. Or like, oh, like I talk to like these two, but I don't talk to that one and that kind of a thing. Um, and sometimes it's just from different life choices, different lifestyles. It's whatever. I think sometimes, for our kind of readers, listeners, they've left the faith. And so now suddenly it's like, well, we don't know what to do. And people like distance. And then suddenly that distance becomes like a chasm. It's like the Grand Canyon between them instead of this like little creek that they could hop over.
Yeah.
But it is interesting how that is the case. But I think it's true. Like you can repair that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's gonna take like concerted effort on your part and on their part too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if there are wounds. So I would say that, so one of these new traditions that we do to continue to strengthen sibling relationships as we all like age and grow and we have our own lives and our own families. And a lot of us have spread out. There's 2 in Wisconsin and 2 in Tennessee and 1 in Missouri and 4 of us are here in Illinois, but spread out through Illinois. Like we're all kind of like an hour away from each other. We all, on the day of our birthday, so I was born May 13th, so on the 13th of every month, I send a quick voice note to the whole group saying, hey, here's my life update, which means we're getting about 2 to 3 updates a week.
Well, when there's 9 of you.
Everybody. It's a good way because there are some siblings who don't communicate as much. And so we don't, it's like, what's going on with that person? And some who talk to each other more than others. Like, there's not those bonds. But I think that this keeps everyone, like, in the loop. It keeps everyone connected. And it is really a way to, I don't know, like, just keep people actively in each other's lives when it becomes easy to not. Right? Like we can be so distracted by our own lives that we forget to continue to tend and cultivate sibling relationships. And there are easy ways in, the 21st century to do this.
Yeah. It was making me think because it's true. I feel like once you've hit your like mid 20s, early 30s, everyone starts kind of creating their own lives. Probably for a lot of our listeners, this is the stage you're at right now. And suddenly there is this larger divide that happens between your siblings. You kind of saw your life one way and then maybe someone got married and they moved and then there was this and there was that. And so, yeah, finding these little ways to help connect them. It's reminding me of before we started this new family trend, which is we do it with all the siblings, so the boys are included too. On Snapchat, every now and then we used to record videos and be like live life updates, and we would just send it to the girls, and it would be like something ridiculous that happened to us or something wild or like something we wanted to tell people, some news bit. And like I loved those too because people would just jump on and be like I can remember doing one and be like, I was almost eaten by a dog, like it came running out of the house, like that kind of a thing. And it was like something small, but like another way to kind of connect on a level that, you can't when you're certainly at a distance. It's not as easy.
Yeah, and I think that to think of creative ways to continue to bond your siblings and stay in touch with each other to whatever is like an appropriate, level for like your state in life on like location. And I would say for those who I would recommend this for honestly anyone who has a strained relationship in their life. It has to be healed. It has to. Like it will show up in your body. There's a lot, and this is going to sound so woo-woo, but stay with me for a second. There is a lot of research that is showing, strained relationships, that stress and trauma that causes, particularly with family, but strained relationships nonetheless, and cancer. It kind of fuels these toxins in our body. We know that women are more susceptible to autoimmune diseases because that women tend to experience more emotions, but then also be told we have to constrain our emotions. And so we internalize, and kind of this internalization of these wounds hurt us. And they hurt us emotionally, they hurt us spiritually, they hurt us in all of these ways. And so forgiveness and repair is so healing in so many ways that if there is a strained relationship in your life, particularly a sibling relationship, it's our responsibility to try to repair that.
Yeah, and I think Like I'm thinking of one friend right now who I think would like to repair, but the other sibling probably is not ready yet. And so that's also something that you have to like keep in mind. Like you can make your efforts and you can try and hope and pray that that sibling's going to come around, but I think you want to at least make the first effort and not make the assumption that they're not willing to reconcile or they're not willing to like to repair this relationship, right? Because I think often we just assume we know something about someone or this is the way they're going to react and behave when we don't actually give them the chance to prove it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah. And I think that would be like often what I recommend is like staying in touch with the person and showing that you're there without forcing. So it's like we open the door, but I can't force you to walk through. So it may look like something like saying, I want to repair this relationship when you're ready. The door is always open when you're ready. Right. And then we may send a card or a text or a voice note or a call on birthdays or anniversaries or special days for them where we're like they're continued olive branches without forcing anything. And I think that with time, people come around, but I think it has to be, it's hard sometimes, I think, to have a relationship with siblings when you feel like you maybe have gone different directions in life and it's maybe different than how you were raised, or it's maybe not choices you would have made. But I think what I always want to like encourage people is that like we are not one choice or one decision we've made, and we often lose sight of the person and all of their unique qualities, gifts, characteristics, attributes, all of these things because of something that happened. We want to like focus on that thing or get this to change, and that oftentimes we have to zoom out and see the whole person and love the whole person
Mm.
while they're living their life and doing their thing. And that we tend to sometimes get like kind of rigid, which can lead to really broken relationships or very strained relationships, that suddenly there's tension every time you're with this person. And the challenge there is to like let it go. And if you guys need to go to therapy or have mediator, like do it.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I think, yeah, like to your point, like it is often starting small. It's that like little reach out. It's not like you're gonna like, reach out to them tomorrow, have a conversation and repair the relationship the next day. And like, you'll be back to the way it was 6 years ago before, so-and-so said something. Like, no, like these things take time. But I think like all relationships take time, even ones that you have that are good, you have to work at continuing to foster those so that they stay good and continue to be, what you want them to be and that kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
I thought what was interesting too in this study is it talked about the tightest sibling bonds in old age are between sister and sister, and then sister to brother, and then lastly, brother to brother. And I was like, oh, shocker. Men don't talk. Like, duh. They're like sitting around, like, I don't know, fishing together, but not super bonded. But like the tightest bonds are sister to sister, which help fight that mental health, like that help keep good mental health, fight loneliness, like that kind of a thing.
You
And
know what?
like to your point with our grandma, right? Like she's 96, her sister's 94. At 92, her sister got cancer, got over it. Now here's grandma 96. She's like, it'll be fine. Like Audrey's there, it'll be great. Like,
Yeah.
okay, cool.
Sure. But they don't live together, which I was like, yeah, that's relatable. It's like, I want to see you around. Like, get out of my space. Like, I'm
Yeah,
done
exactly. Like
in the room with
grandma
you.
still has her own house.
Yeah.
I think Audrey's in a condo, but like still has her own house, like with a yard and everything. It's crazy.
I will say that the temptation, I think, for all of us is that, and I talk to parents about this a lot as their children age. One of the temptations is to think that because a relationship is established, I don't have to keep putting in effort or continue to learn this person. And so it's like there's this kind of false sense of security and like, well, I know them and we're good, right? So I don't have to put in as much time. So I devote my time, effort, energy into new relationships, into my job, into whatever. And I've been responsible. I've been, you know, in that as well. One of our siblings like said something one time and I was like, oh yeah, I think I have so much time for so many other people and I don't always make time.
Mm.
And it's not because I don't want to, it's because I'm like, well, but they're fine.
Yeah.
We're
They're gonna be
good.
there.
We're good.
Yeah.
You'll always be here and I'll always be here. It's fine.
Right.
And to realize that like that's not always fair or kind, and that like this relationship also needs time, energy, and attention.
Mm-hmm.
That, established relationships need to continue to be watered, even though it's sometimes easier to not. And it's not even a negative thing. Nothing happened. It's just like, meh, we just forgot.
Like
We forgot to kind
life,
of participate
whatever.
and tune in. And yeah, this is fascinating. I like this research a lot.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was curious. I was like, now I want to look it up and like look into it more. But like, so we have a cousin who like we're really close to, but he doesn't have any siblings. And in a lot of ways, he's kind of like our sibling because just the age that he is and the age that his kids are closer to some of my siblings. So it's like it's a weird dynamic. But I was like, oh, I wonder with him, like if the same would be for his cousins, like that he needs cousin relationships as he'll age to not feel alone, not feel as lonely or as, that kind of a thing. I was like, oh, I wonder. Because like he is, and he works pretty hard at like trying to establish like good relationships with the cousins who are closer to his age so that he like has that connection because he does feel kind of deprived of having a sibling. Anyway, that was also like I fell down that rabbit hole of like trying to like find research on it, but I couldn't. No one's really done that much research on cousin dynamics and happiness and the longitude of life.
But I think that we can take some of the things we know and apply it to other relationships and situations. I think like key tenets that will make, your marriage successful are similar tenets to making other relationships successful. Relational bonds are really similar in a lot of ways. Like I say it to people that I work with, the Gottmans study marriage, and they say the ratio of positive to negative interactions is 5-1. Not 1-1, not one good, one bad, 5 good, 1 bad. And I'm like, yep, that's the same in all relationships. You can't just wallop on your kids and then give them a compliment and be like, why are they so upset? It's like,
Why don't they like me?
We need an abundance of good, right? And compliments and support and positive interactions to the one negative, right? Which is maybe why sibling relationships start to get strained, because you do go through really difficult things together. You can be nasty to that person and they still have to like be around you. So we tend to take a little bit more liberty with the relationships that are closer to us because we're kind of lulled into this like they'll be around forever and like they have to love me, so like I don't always have to be on my best behavior around them. And the challenge there is to actually like tune into them more and to love them more. So maybe that's a good like challenge or takeaway for our listeners this week, is to think about what's maybe something you can implement in your good sibling relationships to continue to cultivate that bond, or what's one sibling relationship that you could mend or heal or reach out to.
I love it. It's a great one.
Awesome. Well, that's it for this week on Single Not Stalled. We hope this episode gave you new insights and a renewed sense of purpose in your daily life. Wherever you are in your journey, remember that God is with you, and this season is filled with opportunities to grow, flourish, and make an impact. If you're loving the podcast, please take a moment to rate and review it. It helps more women like you find this community. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Join us on social media at Single Not Stalled. We'd love to hear your thoughts and ideas. Until next time, keep living fully and walking boldly.